The first time I saw her, I thought she was just a friend, and when he introduced us, I smiled and said, "Nice to meet you," pretending my stomach didn't twist at how familiar she looked in his apartment. Her jacket on the back of the chair, her shoes just beside the door, her perfume so faint, but everywhere in that tiny living room. And I stood there like a girl who didn't want to ask too many questions because she already feared the answers. He said they had history, but it was over. He said she needed a place to stay and he had space. But what he didn't say was they shared the same bed because there was only one in that apartment and the couch was too small. And somehow that made sense in the cold logic of his world, but not in mine. Not in the place where I curl into my own pillow at night wondering if her back is pressed to his, or if they sleep facing each other, eyes closed, but memories dancing quietly between their lashes. I didn't ask at first, not directly. I tiptoed around her, it like a coward dressed in dignity, dropping hints in the middle of conversations. Like, what's it like to live with someone you used to love? And do you ever feel like you're stuck between what was and what is? And he'd smile, that patient smile of his, like I was a child, and say it's not like that anymore. And she's moved on, and so have I. But if that were true, why did his laundry smell like her soap? And why was there always a mug of coffee waiting for her before he made one? For me, I told myself love required trust. And so I tried to trust, even when it felt like swallowing broken glass with a straight face, even when I kissed him goodnight and walked to my car, knowing she would be the one brushing her teeth in the same bathroom and curling under the same blanket. And sometimes I imagined her hand brushing his in the dark, and the silence saying more than any words could. And I hated myself for imagining it, but I couldn't stop. There were nights I wanted to scream, ask him who she was really, to him. Ask him why I felt like the outsider in his home. Ask him why, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the girl who used to believe love wouldn't hurt like this. But I stayed silent because I loved him. Or, at least I thought I did. And maybe I was just scared of what it would mean if I didn't. He'd hold me sometimes and tell me I was the one he wanted, that she was part of his past, and I was his future. And I'd nod into his shoulder not knowing whether to believe his heartbeat or his words, because they didn't always sync. And when you're the one on the outside, you start reading signs in the shadows, and trust becomes a language you no longer understand. And yet I stayed, because I hoped, because I believed, because sometimes love makes you foolish, and sometimes it makes you brave. And I didn't know which one I was, yet all I knew was that every night I slept alone, while he shared a bed with someone he used to love. And no matter how tightly I closed my eyes, I couldn't unsee that truth. It started with a knock, not on a door, but inside my chest, like something had shifted, something soft, turning sharp, and I couldn't pretend anymore. Not after the night he forgot to call, not after I checked the time and realized he never says goodnight when she's home, and the silence between us felt heavier than the distance. I drove to his place without thinking, the city lights blinking past my window like warnings I didn't want to read. And when I parked in front of his building, I stared at the entryway like it held a truth I wasn't ready to touch. But my hands moved anyway, turning the key he gave me. As if that meant something. As if that made me more than a visitor in a place already filled with someone else's memories. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. And when I opened the door, I heard the low hum of laughter, the kind that slips from behind a closed door and wraps itself around your doubt. And there it was again, her voice, his voice, and mine stuck somewhere in the back of my throat where all the unsaid things go to die. I didn't knock. I didn't call out. I just stood there in the living room that always smelled faintly of lavender and regret, and I walked to the bedroom door slower than breath, slower than fear. And when I opened it, I didn't see what I thought I would. I didn't see tangled limbs or guilty eyes. I saw space, a distance between them that told a different story. And yet it didn't matter, because the pain wasn't about what they were. Doing it was about what I had let myself become. He looked up first, his eyes wide, her eyes calm, and I realized she wasn't the enemy. She was just another chapter. He hadn't finished reading, and I was the girl trying to start a story in the middle of someone else's book. We talked on the balcony that night, the three of us, at first, and then just him and me. And when he said, "I never meant to hurt you," I believed him, but I also knew that love should never come with a side of maybe or a bed already taken. And I told him I couldn't keep making space in my heart for someone who couldn't make space in his home for me. He didn't beg, he didn't cry, and neither did I. And maybe that was the saddest part. Maybe we had both run out of words, or maybe we finally understood the truth, that love without clarity is just a pretty cage. And I was tired of living in one. I walked away that night, not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself. And when I got home to my own bed, my own silence, I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. And sometimes that's what healing looks like. Not a clean break, but a quiet one. The kind that doesn't echo, but leaves nothing behind to haunt you. And now when people ask, I say we weren't wrong for each other, just not right enough. And when I see her sometimes in photos or memories, I don't feel small. I feel whole because I chose to leave before I lost myself entirely. And that was the bravest thing I ever did.